The day I left Nigeria for London, my mother stood at the park waving at me with tears in her eyes. She tried to smile so I wouldn't worry, but I knew that smile was hiding pain. Mama Bose had suffered her entire life. After my father died, she became both mother and father to me and my younger brother Kunle. She sold akara by the roadside every morning before sunrise and washed people's clothes at night just to feed us. There were days she pretended she wasn't hungry so we could eat. I still remember waking up one night and catching her drinking only water because there was no food left in the house. Yet every morning she would smile and say, "God will make a way." That woman was the reason I left for London. I promised her the suffering would end one day. I promised her she would never sell akara again. She held my hands tightly at the motor park and said, "Tunde, don't forget home." I laughed and told her, "Mama, you are my home." At first, life in London was hell. People back home think everybody abroad is living in luxury, but they don't see the loneliness. They don't see the cold nights, the insults, the depression, or the endless work. I worked 3 jobs almost every day. In the mornings, I cleaned offices before workers arrived. At night, I worked security at a warehouse. On weekends, I drove Uber. There were days I slept only 2 hours. My body was always tired, but any time I thought of giving up, I remembered my mother frying akara under the hot sun. Every month, I sent money home. At first, it was small amounts. Then, as I started earning better, the money increased. I sent enough money to rent a better apartment for Mama. Later, I sent money to rebuild the old family house. My younger brother Kunle handled everything because he still lived in Nigeria with Mama. I trusted him completely. He always sounded calm and responsible on phone calls. "Brother, relax," he would say. "Mama is happy. She prays for you every day." Whenever I asked to speak with her, there was always an excuse. "She's sleeping. She went to church. She's visiting somebody. Her phone's spoiled." Sometimes I became suspicious, but then guilt would hit me immediately. I hated doubting my own family. Besides, Kunle sent pictures often. Pictures of building projects, pictures of Mama sitting in front of the house, pictures of new furniture. Everything looked fine. Years passed. 1 year became 3. 3 became 5. 5 became 9. I missed birthdays. I missed funerals. I missed weddings. I missed life itself. But every sacrifice felt worth it because in my mind, my mother was finally enjoying life. Then one winter night in London, after working a double shift, I sat alone in my tiny apartment staring at Mama's old photo on my wall. Her face looked older than I remembered. Suddenly, something hit me deeply. 9 years was too long. I had built everyone's life except my own. I decided it was time to go home. I told nobody. I wanted to surprise them. I imagined Mama crying when she saw me at the door. I imagined hugging her after all those years. I imagined peace. On the flight to Lagos, I couldn't sleep from excitement. My suitcase was filled with gifts, expensive perfumes, clothes, a PS5 for Kunle's son, gold jewelry for my sister-in-law. And for Mama, I bought the most beautiful lace wrapper I had ever seen. I kept imagining how happy she would be. When I finally landed in Lagos, the heat hit me immediately, but I didn't care. I was home. As my taxi drove through Lekki, I stared out the window, smiling like a child. Then we arrived at the house address Kunle sent years ago. I froze. The building standing before me looked like a mansion owned by a politician. Massive gates, brand new SUVs parked outside, marble everywhere. It was far beyond the modest family home I had funded. Before I could process it, the gate opened and Kunle ran outside dramatically shouting, "Brother Tunda!" He hugged me tightly, but something about the hug felt strange, forced, like an actor performing. Inside the house, everybody celebrated loudly. Food everywhere. Drinks everywhere. But as I sat there smiling, one question kept burning inside me. Where is Mama? The room became awkwardly quiet for a second. Just 1 second. But it was enough. Kunli quickly smiled and said, "Ah, Mama's in the village. She wanted a peaceful environment for prayer." I frowned. The village? Why didn't anybody tell me? My sister-in-law forced a smile. "You know old people now." She said Lagos was too stressful. I nodded slowly, but something felt wrong immediately. Deep wrong. A mother who spent years waiting for her son abroad would never miss his return. That night, I couldn't sleep. Around 5 a.m., I quietly left the mansion and drove into town. I told myself maybe I was overthinking. Maybe Mama really traveled. Maybe I was tired from the flight. Then something happened that changed my life forever. At a traffic stop near CMS, an old woman walked between cars begging for money. Her hair was rough and dirty. Her clothes were torn. One of her legs looked swollen. People insulted her as she moved from car to car. Then she turned slightly, and my heart nearly stopped. The wrapper tied around her waist was familiar. Too familiar. It was the Ankara wrapper I bought for Mama before leaving Nigeria 9 years ago. My hands started shaking. I stepped out of the car slowly. "Mama." The woman looked up at me with empty, frightened eyes. For a second, she looked confused. Then suddenly she panicked and started running. I chased her through the crowded street while people stared at us. Finally, she stopped behind an abandoned building and curled herself into a corner, trembling. I moved closer carefully. "Mama, it's me, Tunde." She stared at me for what felt like forever. Then tears slowly rolled down her face. And what she said next destroyed me completely. "Tunde, did they finally allow you come home?" I broke down immediately. My own mother looked like she had suffered through hell. She was skinny, dirty, weak. Her body carried scars. Her eyes looked empty, like somebody who had cried for too many years. I held her tightly while crying like a child. That abandoned building was where she lived. Broken roof, torn mattress, empty water bottles. That was where the woman who sacrificed her entire life for me had been surviving. Slowly, painfully, Mama told me everything. After I left for London, Kunli changed. At first he handled the money responsibly, but greed entered his heart. The more money I sent, the greedier he became. He started using the money for himself. Expensive cars, business deals, parties. When Mama complained, he insulted her. When she threatened to tell me, he beat her. Eventually, he convinced people around them that she was mentally unstable. He even bribed some local officials and forged documents claiming she was mentally ill so he could control all family property legally. When Mama complained, he insulted her. When she threatened to tell me, he beat her. Eventually, he convinced people around them that she was mentally unstable. He even bribed some local officials and forged documents claiming she was mentally ill so he could control all family property legally. Whenever I called, they hid her away. The photos they sent me were old pictures. The house I thought I built for my mother became the house that destroyed her. Then one day after an argument, Kunli threw her out completely. My own brother abandoned our mother on the streets while eating from the sweat of my suffering abroad. I couldn't breathe listening to her story. The worst part wasn't even the betrayal. It was what Mama said next. "I tried to tell you many times, Tunde, but each time they beat me." I stared at her in shock. Then she touched my face gently and whispered, "I was afraid if you came home angry, you would destroy your future." Even after everything they did to her, she was still protecting me. That was the moment something inside me changed forever. I took Mama somewhere safe immediately and arranged medical treatment for her secretly. But I didn't confront Kunli yet. No, I wanted the truth first. Full truth. For the next few days, I pretended everything was normal at the mansion while quietly investigating. I hired lawyers, checked property documents, reviewed bank transfers. What I discovered shocked even the lawyers. Kunle had stolen millions. Using fake signatures and forged papers, he transferred properties into his own name. He even registered businesses using my identity. The mansion itself partly belonged to me legally, but he hid everything carefully because he assumed I would never return permanently. The anger inside me became unbearable. Still, I stayed calm. One evening, the family gathered for dinner, laughing loudly as usual. Kunle was telling jokes while eating expensive food bought from my money. Then I placed a brown envelope quietly on the dining table. Everybody stopped talking. Kunle looked confused. I looked directly into his eyes and said, "I saw Mama." Immediately, the color disappeared from his face. I opened the envelope slowly and spread photographs across the table. Pictures of Mama begging. Pictures of her sleeping inside that abandoned building. Pictures of bruises on her body. Silence filled the room like death itself. Nobody could speak. Then I stood up slowly. "For 9 years," I said, "I suffered abroad believing my mother was living well." I pointed around the mansion. "You built all this from her pain." Kunle suddenly started crying and fell to his knees begging, but I felt nothing anymore. At that exact moment, police officers entered the compound. One officer walked forward and said, "Kunle Adebayo, you are under arrest for fraud, elder abuse, assault, and property theft." Chaos exploded everywhere. My sister-in-law screamed. Neighbors gathered outside recording videos. The same people who mocked my mother on the streets now stood watching in shame as police handcuffed the man who destroyed her life. Kunle kept crying and shouting my name as they dragged him away, but I never answered, because the brother I once loved had died long ago. Months later, Mama slowly started healing. I bought her a peaceful home far away from Lagos noise. She received proper treatment, care, and peace for the first time in years. One evening, we sat together watching the sunset quietly when she suddenly asked me, "Tunde, did I become a burden?" I turned toward her immediately. Tears filled my eyes. "Mama," I said, "you were never the burden." My voice broke completely. I just trusted the wrong people. Sometimes the people who destroy us are not strangers. They are the people eating at our table, the people calling us family, the people smiling while betraying us behind closed doors. And sometimes, the greatest pain in life is discovering that while you were suffering abroad, trying to save your family, the person you loved most was praying every night just to survive another day.